Welcome back, everybody, to the Young Filmmakers podcast, or whatever we're calling this. I have no idea. How's everybody doing? Hopefully, you guys, if you haven't seen the first podcast, I recommend you watch it. We introduce ourselves, so we're not going to do that again. At least I don't think so. So let's get right into it. How's everybody doing? Patrick?
Doing pretty good. How about you?
Hey, pretty good. You know, things are going great. Good, bud?
Pretty all right.
Nice. Okay. Now we got that out of the way. Let's get right into it because I think this might be a little bit longer. Lots of, I think, description and kind of reasons as to why we say things in this one. We're going to be talking about 3 topics today. All going to be tier listings, kind of. Not really, but they're like top 5s. So we're going to be doing directors, actors, and then film scores. So like I said, let's get right into it. We're going to start with directors. Who wants to start? Because mine's like
start, Vance.
Okay, because I'm not gonna say I put a lot of time into it. Probably not really, but like I have a lot to say. So first off, easiest one out of the way, Stanley Kubrick, and this is in like no particular order, but I'm just gonna say what movies I've seen so you have context. So like if you're like, oh well, you said something that doesn't make sense for one of the movies, it's because I haven't seen it. So Stanley Kubrick, I've seen Full Metal Jacket, The Shining, 2001, Clockwork Orange, Paths of Glory, Flying Padre, and The Seafarers. So I've seen some of his short films. The reason I have Stanley Kubrick where he is it comes down to really the messages he portrays in his films. And I think it's very, very unique compared to other directors. I think a lot of movies tend to go towards the more positive side of things, kind of the more like, I wouldn't say generic stories, that's kind of like a mean way to put it, but like much more positive outlook. And I think a lot of his movies are very, very kind of dark, and like sometimes they come off as a little bit like nihilistic or pessimistic, but he just has such a way of making you feel like you're kind of on this experience with this character. Full Metal Jacket is like you're kind of just like being thrown into this whole like, you know, the works of the military and kind of the crazy stuff that they did, getting to experience people with mental illness and that in that kind of setting is just crazy. His ability to make you feel so uncomfortable but still enough to like watch it all the way through is so it's just incredible. Even with something like The Seafarers, which is literally just an informational video on like the Navy, of like just joining the Navy or whatever, or the Seafarers is literally what it's called, is interesting. I've never wanted to watch an informational video in my entire life, but I actually watched that all the way through. It was like 30 minutes or something. And it was still entertaining. So, and also too, he's worked with, you know, great scores, and he does his own cinematography, actors. If you want to talk about Jack Nicholson, there's a bunch of people, but just phenomenal. And that's another thing too, is his cinematography. I think the reason I like him so much is not only do I think he's the best director of all time, I think he's also the best cinematographer of all time. I don't think anybody is able to do what he's done with the movies that he's done. Even him being way back in like the 60s and 70s and 80s. It's really, really impressive.
So you're saying that you never willingly watched the Bill Nye video?
The Bill Nye video?
Yeah, you said you never willingly watched an informational video.
No, I mean like an info. It's different. It's not like here's top 5 facts about helium. It's like, here's how to join a business and like how to sign up and go on and write down your information. It's like literally a how-to on how to like apply for a job. It's really fucking weird, but he makes it interesting. Yeah. I don't want to talk all the way through, so we'll just bounce back on the top 5. So let's go to who wants to go next? Nice. Okay, Patrick.
Hold on, wait.
You want to go?
The focus is being funky.
Nice.
Sure, I'll go. So, no, I'll save that one for later. I also have Stanley Kubrick written down. I'm not as much of a fan of him as Vance is, but because I've only seen 2001. But from all like the stuff I've seen from stuff like Barry Lyndon and The Shining and stuff, I can really tell that he has he's obviously very passionate about the stories he's telling and stuff, and I think that's very important for directors to. That's what makes directors great directors, is when they're passionate about the stories they tell. And like Vance, you were talking about like his cinematography. I think Barry Lyndon is one of the most beautiful movies ever made. The use of like candlelight and all that stuff is amazing, and even like the little details of how he uses zooms instead of like dolly movements to make it feel like you're looking at like a painting.
Yeah,
it's really cool. And one thing I want to talk about The Shining is, of course, there's the famous story of like the 127 takes or something, or just one take, one shot, doing it 127 times. And I think that also shows how like invested he is in his stories and stuff. And 2001 is one of the only movies that I've seen more than once. And I think it's really weird, but like it keeps like drawing you back. And I think that's the mark of a great director, is when you want to see their movies more than once.
Yeah. I want to go back to the 127 takes thing. It's stories like this. The Shining in general, the production was incredibly interesting. And if you can like look up the behind the scenes, they have a ton of videos on it. But the thing that really made me start to really like Kubrick a lot is watching that video, what he did to Shelley Duvall. She plays Jack Nicholson's wife. To get her into character, like behind the scenes, he made her so full of anxiety, so stressed out, he was constantly just railing on her and just making her feel like, and you can tell that he's doing it on purpose. Like he's literally making this so difficult for her, because she wasn't considered an incredibly talented actress, or like she wasn't like, he needed to get her to a position, and he was so focused on that he was willing to sacrifice like a relationship with somebody that he was working with so that she would do it right. Like he would literally make her cry for real, so that when she was crying, like when they were filming, it was real emotion. That kind of stuff is so incredible. Like not only are you getting an experience when you're watching the movie, but to be involved, if you were ever able to be involved with a production of his, it's an experience as well. And I think that's another huge part of directing that I think people overlook, is the experience you give the people you're filming with. I think that makes everything better when you can actually like keep people in character, keep people focused, keep people like in this world that you're building. I think that's so cool.
Yeah. And another thing from the behind the scenes of The Shining, I saw like a little bit of it, and it was in that and the behind the scenes of 2001, where I could see like he wasn't one of those directors where they go in like with a set plan and a shot list and stuff. He just like walks around with his viewfinder and says, "Yeah, that looks good," and he makes like some like the most like famous shots like ever.
Seriously, yeah, like the one they're in the freezer room in The Shining, and he's just like gets on the ground and he has his viewfinder like, yeah, we could do the 50 right here or whatever. Like it's so cool that he can do that. Like it's so inspirational, because like a lot of the times it comes down to like your creativity. You can't always plan stuff ahead, and for him to be able to do that is phenomenal. But do you want to add anything? You've seen 2001, right? What did you think of it?
2001, and that's the only Kubrick movie I've ever seen.
Yeah. What did you think of 2001?
2001 was a pretty interesting movie. I only ever watched it once, and it was in class. So, I mean, I wasn't really focused on it because it was in class. So, it was a pretty interesting movie. I still don't get it. but that's expected.
Yeah.
That's all I really have to say about it. It
That's
was
a
like 2 or 3 years ago.
Yeah, that's another thing why I really, really love Kubrick. And we talked about this last podcast of my writing style is I like weird stuff, but I also really, really love when a movie ends. Everybody's like, what just happened? Like, I have no idea what this means. Like, that is,
Yeah.
I think that's the best thing ever, because then people are thinking about your movie for days, weeks, months, especially when that movie first came out, people were angry, like literally like I have no idea what this is about. That is so cool that you're able to like I just think that's amazing. That's really, really awesome.
So,
Just want to go to let's go to Ubaid.
For my
Yeah.
for my directors. Unlike you guys, I haven't seen very many movies, so my directors list is fairly modern, I guess. I mean, it's also like just recommendations by you guys that I've seen movies. Uh, Probably the top one that comes to mind is Tarantino, Quentin Tarantino. That is, if in case you didn't know, I don't know how you wouldn't, but yeah. But he has, I think I mentioned it to Vance a while ago. He's really mastered that like tiny area between like witty banter and like not annoying banter. That little like annoyance and like good, and it's like right there, and it's like perfect.
Yeah.
And it's just like all of his movies are really good. I don't handle like gore really very well, but I mean, to all their own, he can have at it. Just gotta cover the screen. I'm like a child when it comes to movies, but yeah, his style is very, very cool. I don't really watch behind the scenes stuff, so again, I can't really like comment on anything. But you know, like Django was a really interesting movie. All of his movies they're very well written, very well produced, and yeah, that's really all I have to say about it.
Yeah. Back to Tarantino. I think like a huge thing. Actually don't have him written down for here, just because like I'm a bigger fan of some other directors. But the thing is
How dare you?
the thing with Tarantino that I love so much is how far he's willing to go to defend his style. So many people throughout the years are always like, why do you need to have so much gore? Why do you need to have so much violence? Why do you need to say, like, he's like infamous for saying the N-word even though he's white? I think that's just like his ability to like make people understand, like, this is my movie, and if you don't want to watch it, don't watch it. I think that's amazing and a breath of fresh air in Hollywood in general, because I feel like a lot of people like they get torn down because people criticize them and they don't like back it up. They don't have kind of the backbone to say, no, like, this is my art. This is what I create. That's like that. Once again, super inspirational to listen to any of his interviews. I remember one of his famous ones where the lady's like, why do you have to have so much like blood advised? Like, cause it's fun. It's like, that's so funny to watch. He has so much character and you can see it in his movies. It's really, really cool.
And I actually do have him written down. Again, back to behind the scenes stuff. I love watching his behind the scenes because you can tell like how much fun he's just having just on set, like talking to the actors, talking to the crew and stuff. And the whole thing where like whenever he says like, let's do another take, and he asks the whole crew like why, and they're all, because we love making movies.
Yeah.
I think that's just amazing. And the way that he what's the word? He clearly like blends the line between like modern filmmaking and like old school filmmaking. And I love that. Like, he still shoots on film and he still like does all these like he films still like sort of in an old school way. And I think that's really cool that he's making movies like in a modern era, and he's not like sort of like coming to like the modern way of filming.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I obviously it goes back to back to what you were saying when he was talking to the casting crew. It goes back to the experience. I think even us who've never worked with them, or even any viewer who's never worked with these directors, if you go and you watch the behind the scenes, you get like this kind of value from it, because you see that they're not just like these like, you know, boring people who are just like next, oh, here's the shot, okay, let's do it. Like, they actually have a personality, and I think that's really, really important, at least for me, when I'm watching something, is like these, if a director has a personality, it definitely means, at least on set, it definitely means that they're like they're working with others. They're not just like sitting there and like making this all themselves. Like Tarantino is definitely like he's working with everybody else. He's talking, he's having a dialogue, he's doing all these things, and that shows you that he's really, really passionate about it. And I think that's really, really important.
And another thing from like the behind the scenes stuff, I have this like theory going on where like you can tell how much like a director cares about the movie based on like where he is on the film set when they're rolling. And like you see like a bunch of directors, they're like on the opposite side of the room, or like even like in a completely different room, like looking at their monitor and like yelling across when they want to say cut. But Tarantino, he's always like right next to the camera. He's not even looking at a monitor. He's just looking at the actor, like seeing their performance and stuff. And I think that also shows like how invested he is as a director, and of course like yeah, he has his own style with directing and like being there. Like I think there was some interviews from like actors that he's worked with where they're like, it's kind of uncomfortable, like him just like sitting next to the camera, like staring at them as they're like doing their performance. But I mean, he gets it out of the actors anyway, you know.
Yeah, true. So who wants to go next? I have some. You guys want to go? Or you want me to go?
I think you can go because I already said two of mine.
Okay. You might get angry for me here by this man replaced Quentin Tarantino on my list, but this is purely based off, one, obviously my favorite movie of all time, and two, I think the potential this director has, and that's Robert Eggers. He's the director who did The Lighthouse, which is my favorite movie of all time. If you didn't know, I've seen that movie 20 times. It came out late last year. I've seen it 20 times. But he made The Witch and The Lighthouse. And I have never been so sucked into a world in my entire life than with The Lighthouse. And it's incredible to say that, because I've seen movies like Star Wars where they're literally in this galaxy full of hundreds of planets, hundreds of races, all these different political things, and like this huge expansiveness. And I never felt as immersed as I did with the movie like The Lighthouse. Even The Witch, which I don't think is nearly as good as The Lighthouse, just merely because I think The Lighthouse is like amazing. Even with The Witch, you're sucked into this. He has this immaculate sense for making a world out of this very gothic and small kind of boundaries. Like, he works in a very small area. And his use of language, both of the movies have very, very like sometimes hard to understand, very period piece language. It's like, it's so much fun to watch. It's so different than any other director I've seen. It's just incredible. And obviously, the performances he's able to get out, like with The Lighthouse, for example, with Robert Pattinson and Willem Dafoe. Obviously, those guys are incredibly talented, but he makes this synergy. He makes this kind of this feeling when you're watching of just like, this is actually happening right now. It's so cool. Absolutely love it. But yeah, it's based off like what I think he can do. If these are his first two movies, The Witch and The Lighthouse, and I think both of them are incredibly unique and incredibly interesting, and I'm really, really excited to see what he has to do next. He's definitely like on my list of like one of my biggest hopes and dreams of my life is one day being able to work with this guy. Like, that would actually be insane. He's that good. Seriously.
I definitely I don't have him on my list, but I definitely think he's very similar to like Kubrick in like the way he films and stuff. And I'd say he shoots in even a more old school fashion than Kubrick, because Kubrick was very modern for like his time. But Robert Eggers definitely, he shoots in a more like old school fashion. But he uses sort of like the same themes and same styles as Kubrick does, and I think that's why you really like him.
Yeah, true.
He's like a modern Kubrick.
Yeah. But you've seen The Lighthouse.
I have. Another movie I don't understand, but
So the
I was
theme
gonna
here.
say that for this one, I have seen like one interview where it was Robert Pattinson and Robert Eggers, right? And they were doing an interview and they were talking about the character that Robert Pattinson was playing, and it was really interesting because you could see Robert Pattinson describing the character, but you could see that Eggers was looking at him, and he could see that Eggers was like learning from Pattinson what Pattinson thought of the character. So the like when the actors really invest inside like the character, then you get like really good performances that just all add into the immersiveness of the overall movie.
Mm. Yeah, I love seeing directors that can talk to their actors. I think that's like key for sure.
And I definitely think that like you said, he was learning from Robert Pattinson. I definitely think actors know the character better than the directors. So it's important for directors to have a good relationship with their actors and be able to just talk to them and figure out like what they're going for in terms of like a character.
Yeah, true.
Yeah.
When a director thinks they know more about a character than the actor, that's when you get the prequels where you have Hayden Christensen, who was literally like forced to play the character Anakin, obviously, in a certain way because George Lucas thought that he knew exactly how they were supposed to be played. Whereas I think Hayden Christensen definitely would have done things a lot different if you just let him do his job. This is literally his professional job. So, yeah.
Didn't Hayden Christensen like start farming after like acting and came back like once ever?
I would do the exact same if I was destroyed like that.
I mean, the prequels are like hated for like 5 years, and then this like generation came along. And we're like, hey, that's we'll take it.
Yeah, it's better than the ones. We don't want to get off topic. But do you have another one, or was this
another director?
Yeah.
Okay, I've only seen one of his movies, and it was because of Pat. And I'm pretty sure he's Pat's favorite director. It is the guy who it's Wes Anderson. Small indie filmmaker. Don't know if you've ever heard of him. He's just, I forgot the word that they used to describe him, but it's the word of what normally you'd put for a writer where they control every single aspect of their scene. I forgot hold on. The word, it's really, like it's accurate to his style. He controls like every single tiny part of his production, like every small moving piece, and he puts a lot of work into it. And you obviously see it in the finished product as well. The
details.
The movie that I've seen specifically was the Grand Budapest Hotel, and I watched that with Patrick, and it's just a overall really good movie. He has the style of like older filmmaking where people would talk like really fast, but it's not like the fast talk where you're trying to seem cool. It's more of the fast talk. Yeah.
Wes Anderson is like the most detailed director, I think, at least visually. I actually I don't have Wes Anderson on my list, but whenever I watch a Wes Anderson movie, you know within a millisecond that it's a Wes Anderson movie. Literally from whatever the music is, the intro, the title, and then obviously his exposition is so strong. And I think he's up there again with another director. And I think there's a common theme here. Directors who are also really good cinematographers is like literally the pinnacle. I think that because when your cinematography isn't just when you're a director and you're a cinematographer, you're not just thinking of what looks good, you're thinking of what makes sense because you know what you're trying to say. That's your whole purpose. And Wes Anderson, you always know what he's trying to say because he's so hyper focused on those details. It's just like, it's incredible. Yeah, I've seen the Grand Budapest. That was really awesome. I forgot what else I've seen. What are the other? Oh, there's Fantastic Mr. Fox, right? There's Isle of Dogs. I've seen that. I love that he does stop motion and stuff like that. I love that too. Another director that I have on here also does stop motion. So I have a soft spot for stop motion. I think it always looks really, really cool. And when you can switch between them and be versatile, that's really cool.
So I have Wes Anderson on my list as well. One thing about it is although he doesn't do his own cinematography, I think he works very well with the cinematographer he works with, Robert Yeoman. Um, if you look at like any other movie that Robert Yeoman has like done cinematography for, like you won't even like notice like he's Wes Anderson's cinematographer, because like it's like so specific that like this is a Wes Anderson movie. This is like a Wes Anderson shot. Like everything like about his films is it's very Wes Anderson. And I think one more thing about him is he does a very good job at like creating these worlds, like Van said about Robert Eggers. But I think uh, and like Ubed said about like the details, Wes Anderson puts in like all those details to make the world like seem more like filled out and lived in, like it's an actual like world. And uh, just like also like Van said, him switching between like stop motion and live action films. After his first stop motion film, Fantastic Mr. Fox, he then went and made the Grand Budapest Hotel, which I think is like the most Wes Anderson movie that he's made. And I think that the way that he used stop motion in Fantastic Mr. Fox like really changed his style to make like all like his shots have to be like very precise and very like accurate, as if like he's shooting live action like it's stop motion.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that's what really like makes his style, is like everything is very precise and stuff like that.
Yeah, I want to build on the stop motion thing. The reason I think it's so cool and what you were saying, what you're alluding to, is I think stop motion makes you patient and it makes you meticulous and it makes you care about the tiny little details, because you literally have to. That's the whole purpose of stop motion, is you're literally step by step making these little tiny things. And I think if a director can sit down and make a stop motion, not just it's like a short film stop motion takes forever if you're doing it like high like frames. For him to make a stop motion full length feature shows that he has patience, and that is really, really cool to see from directors, because I think a lot of movies now, they seem very rushed, very like just kind of plain and just thrown all over the place. But you can tell that he's very, very focused on like getting these little tiny things right, because he's used to it. It doesn't bother him. It's not annoying him.
Yeah.
He'd be the type of guy like Kubrick to make something do 100 plus because he's wants to get it just perfect. It's really cool. Anybody else want to say anything about Wes?
The word I was looking for was auteur.
Auteur?
I said that wrong too.
Oh yes, yes, quite indeed, yes.
One more thing about him is I love that he doesn't have like the biggest budgets in Hollywood, and I think the ability of him to like make like his films like feel so like high budget, I guess, is really cool. And all like the DIY stuff, like again, if you see like the behind the scenes of like the Grand Budapest Hotel, like they didn't even have like a train, and like a train is like one of like the big things, not the big things, but they have multiple scenes inside of a train, and they didn't even have like a train to film in. It's just like a little cart on wheels that like a couple guys are like pushing. And his use of miniatures as well is like really cool, with like in the Grand Budapest Hotel, the hotel is like, at least the outside is just like a miniature, and like they're shooting it on like a fake like backdrop and stuff. And I think that's really cool.
Yeah. To go into the next director, it's funny, I forgot, it's weird that I kind of like forgot about Wes Anderson, because this director is literally Wes Anderson, but like the opposite, at least like with tones. So but I like I said, I agree with what you said about Wes Anderson. I love everything he does with making a world. Just me personally, I have a little bit of a bias because I grew up watching this guy. Tim Burton is literally Wes Anderson, just like a little bit more, funny to say this, but he's a little bit more quirky actually, and a little bit more like obviously dark and stuff. But it's another director where immediately it's a Tim Burton movie immediately, whether because you're gonna have we'll get into this later. Danny Elfman, obviously, when you hear he has such a distinct sound, you're gonna be like, okay, here we go, we're ready. It's gonna have like Johnny Depp or Helena Bonham Carter or whatever, but he's just so good at making these worlds. Growing up watching his movies, I didn't realize this, but just like you get so sucked into this whole thing. It has so much, and he uses music so well, and he's so meticulous with making this like a fun movie, but at the same time, like it can be dark and like kind of strange and weird and all this thing, but it's fun to watch. And for context, here are the movies I've seen from him: the original Batman, 1989. By the way, one of the best scores of all time. Edward Scissorhands, The Nightmare Before Christmas, Sleepy Hollow, Charlie and the Chocolate Factory, Corpse Bride, Sweeney Todd, and then his short film Vincent. Just every single one of those, I can't imagine anybody saying that they really, really disliked it. I know some people don't like Charlie and the Chocolate Factory too much, but it's just so strange. It's so interesting to watch. It's so unlike every other director I've seen, at least with the subjects that he's doing. It's so quirky. It's so interesting. It's so much fun to watch. Do you guys have anything to add with him?
Yeah, he's not on my list, but I definitely agree. He's a very good director. He's, I would definitely see the connection with Wes Anderson. How he's like sort of like he shoots in the same style, but like opposite tones, and just all of his movies are really just there's something about them. They're very like unique and like very powerful in like what they have to say and just like getting the story across.
Mm-hmm. But you've had to have seen some of these, right? No? Have you seen any Tim Burton movie? Be honest.
I don't think so.
No. Oh,
Wait, did he make the Charlie and the Chocolate Factory with Johnny Depp? Or
yes. Johnny
okay,
Depp.
so I have seen one.
Okay,
Nice.
good. We're somewhere. What did you think of that?
Yeah. It's Charlie and
Yeah,
the Chocolate
nice.
Factory.
Yeah.
I totally didn't have to search up Tim Burton when you said Tim Burton.
Oh God,
Oh,
come
no.
on, man.
I'm sorry, I've just offended like the 5 people watching.
It's fine. Back to we said about this earlier, is a director who is able to like be personal. We were talking about this last podcast. If you watch Tim Burton and you know Tim Burton, every single movie that you see of him, you can see a part of him. And I think the big one that stands out that I think a lot of people know is Edward Scissorhands. It's kind of a story of somebody who's in a very, very, and I think some of us could probably relate to this in some way. At least I know I can for sure. Edward Scissorhands kind of about like growing up in this like suburban kind of setting, but kind of never really being that kind of like, oh my gosh, like Starbucks, like suburban person, you know what I mean? Never really like feeling like you were that kind of just person in general. And so when you watch Edward Scissorhands, he gets so sentimental and so like personal on his kind of story. It's cool to see people open up like that. I think he's one of the most personal directors out there. And even like Vincent, his short film, and I highly recommend everybody watch that. It's about like this little kid who wants to be like this dramatic gothic, like, you know, guy living in his own mansion and everything, and his mom telling him that like, no, you're just a normal kid, like just act normal or whatever. And he doesn't want to. He wants to be in this world that he's made of like all these like crazy, weird, like monsters and just all this crazy stuff. And it's cool that he's able to talk about that. It's really, really inspirational for sure.
Yeah.
Is that the only, wait, what movies have you seen by him, Patrick?
I don't have it written down, but I've seen Charlie and Chocolate Factory, Nightmare Before Christmas. I've seen Big Fish. We watched that in class,
Oh, yeah.
actually, in Myth and Folk. But I've seen some more, but I can't remember off the top of my head right now.
Okay. All right. Should we move on to the next one? I feel like a lot of us are
You should stop asking me to say stuff I don't know like directly.
Well, I just want to know if you've seen a movie.
True. I mean, I have seen a movie.
Maybe.
Cars 2, Cars 3.
Okay. Sick.
Cars 2 is the best one.
Okay. Um, this next one, I'm gonna let Patrick go because I feel like he's gonna say him anyways. Um,
Oh, so then should I say the one that I think you're gonna say?
I know what you're gonna say. Let's just get it over with.
All right, Steven Spielberg.
Yeah.
uh,
You know he's gonna make the list.
yeah, a lot of people, and I don't know why, they say he's not like an artistic director or whatever. He's like more mainstream, and I definitely see like more now he is kind of sort of going towards the mainstream, but definitely like his older movies, like here I have just a few written down that I've seen. Raiders of the Lost Ark, Catch Me If You Can, Saving Private Ryan, one of his newer ones, The Post, which I actually thought was pretty good. Again, another animated one, Adventures of Tintin, and The Terminal. The thing about Spielberg that I just really love is his like he focuses a lot on like the adventure or like the journey to like get somewhere. Like in all of his movies, they're all about like someone like going on a journey to do something or something like that. And he's also another actor that not actor. He's a director that works very well with actors, and I think he really is great at getting good performances out of actors and getting them into like the characters and stuff.
Yeah. I think if you were to grow up in the era where Spielberg was starting out, you definitely think that he was a lot like really stylized. Personally, I can see like I can understand that like historical perspective, but in like just because like like my stuff is very very like extreme, so I don't look at Spielberg as very like very artistic, but I see him as very not. Let's not get it twisted. Like I don't mean artistic like he's not good. I mean like he doesn't. I've said this a couple times to Patrick, but like I can't necessarily determine what Spielberg's style is a lot of times, but I know for sure that whatever movie he makes, no matter what it is so well crafted and it is so well made. Like I think he's never going to, and he has, let's be honest, he has some bad movies, but you can tell that he had definitely something he was shooting for, and he's never a kind of director that's going to just put out something mediocre for the sake of like, oh, I just whatever. He's so like meticulous with it, and I really really love his stuff. And just for context, again, I've seen Jaws, Jurassic Park, Schindler's List, Saving Private Ryan, Catch Me If You Can, Lincoln, Bridge of Spies, and The Terminal. And my favorite movie by him is Schindler's List for sure. And once again, the backstory of that, of him being in USC film school and presenting that as his what was it, like his final or something? That's
like
incredible.
Senior project.
Yeah, that's incredible. But he can. I think he's the number one director that's made me cry the most for sure. The Terminal made me cry. Schindler's List made me cry for like 30 straight minutes. Saving Private Ryan, of course. Lincoln, dude, like seriously, like those movies are so powerful. He's and I think it's fitting that he works with what was it, John Williams again?
Yeah.
I think it's fitting that he works with John Williams because I think John Williams is also one of the most just like emotional, like full artists of like our generation. So, but yeah, he's incredible. Sorry, I'm gonna start crying. No.
Another thing about Spielberg is I love that he can like switch moods very quickly between movies. Like I think it was Schindler's List and Jurassic Park. Like he made those like in the same year, and he's just like switching back and forth between two different sets or whatever.
Yeah.
Like he goes back and forth between like a really like sad emotional movie that makes people cry and like a happy like comedy sort of movie.
Yeah, like a crazy like.
Yeah.
I really like that too. Versatility is really important. What was I gonna say? You keep going.
Another thing about his style that you were talking about, I definitely think that like he created what we consider like the modern sort of style of filmmaking, because his style, it's not sort of a very difficult style to pull off.
Mhm.
And I'm not saying that means it's a bad style. It's he's on my list. It's a very good style, but I
Yeah.
think it's very easy for other filmmakers to pull it off if they have, of course, like the budget. If they're making like a Hollywood movie, they can
Mhm.
make a film in a Spielberg style. And I think that's what sort of like the trend is, and that's why most people, when they like, if today like they go back and they watch like Jaws or Jurassic Park or something, they see like it's a very sort of simple filming style,
Mhm.
and it makes them feel like it's sort of like an average movie. But like I think a big thing with movies is you have to take into account like when they were made, definitely. And I think
Yeah.
like for the time he was like Kubrick. He was filming in a very sort of modern sort of style back in like the 60s and 70s and stuff.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah, what you said about like it being the new norm, I think so many movies nowadays are like totally using Spielberg style. The first one that came to mind instantly was Stranger Things. It's about kids, a lot of adventure. This kind of like uh, he's used like monsters before, obviously Jaws, Jurassic Park. Um, but you can tell they use a lot of the same uh, camera work, a lot of the same kind of shot types, a lot of the same like emotional kind of themes and stuff. I can definitely agree with that. He seriously has made like what we consider that. That's why I say like to me we can't notice right now of like
Yeah.
this distinct just at like first glance. But if you look at it and you're like, he's literally made like all the movies that we've been watching that are like new and stuff. I think like even like stuff like we were just talking last podcast. Like I think the Avengers use a ton of like what Spielberg, and
Yeah.
I'm not saying that in a bad way, but I'm saying like that's probably one of the better things about Marvel is like they do use that kind of same uh, themes of Spielberg with just like the emotion side of it.
Yeah.
You want to say anything else?
You gonna ask me if I've seen a Spielberg movie?
Have you seen a Spielberg movie?
How can you not have seen a Spielberg movie? He's made so many.
Yeah.
Yeah, he's a good director.
Nice.
I'm not very good at talking about stuff, as you could probably tell.
Nice. Let's go, dude.
All right, here I do have one person I can talk about.
Okay,
Nice.
so here we go.
He's
Patrick
on
Romeo.
he's he's on my list. But it's not for his movies specifically. It's for what he created that a lot of people use. It's Edgar Wright, and he has the zoom that like everyone uses. Well, there's that, but then also I've only seen one of his movies. It's Baby Driver. It's a really good movie, really meticulously made. Like everything down to like the gunshots are timed to the music, which is like really definitely deserved the it's called Oscar for editing. And it's just a really good director. I think overall you can really tell when a director is invested in their movie, that you can tell from like a passive director from like an active one who like legitimately cares about what they're making. Yeah, and I think his style specifically has it's inspired like a lot of people from just like the general what like people call like the B-roll nowadays. It's really common to see his, I don't know if it's like trademarked, but his zoom.
His like
trademark.
his yeah. I know what you're talking about. I actually like I don't have Edgar Wright written down, but I also agree. I've seen Baby Driver and Scott Pilgrim. It's another one of those directors that like he's very, very careful about what he does, and I think he probably has a really big hand in the editing side of things, which is really cool. I think who made Whiplash? What director was that?
Oh, that's
Damien
Daniel.
Chazelle.
Yeah.
Yeah, so
Damien, not Daniel.
Chazelle and Edgar Wright. I love their movies. I mean, Chazelle. I think I've only seen Whiplash. I may have seen another one of his, but I don't remember.
Saw The First Man.
Oh
That
yeah,
was him, right?
yeah, First Man. I really, really like their movies. I think they're really well done. I don't think they're like insane or whatever. I think Baby Driver and Scott Pilgrim are really good. Chazelle is a little bit different. I like Whiplash, but I have like a love-hate relationship because their styles that they have that they're good at have inspired so many knockoffs from like short films and stuff. That is one of the most annoying things to watch. I am an adamant hater of the whip pan, of those like silly, like crazy zooms, and I think they're so stupid 99% of the time. I
The
think people,
120 FPS B-roll.
yeah, I think it's one of the most annoying things that people do, because it's just like most people are like, wow, look at that, but I don't think it's impressive unless it's the actual directors that did it first that are actually really good at it. Um,
Yeah,
Wait.
I have Edgar Wright written down as well. So that finishes off my list of 5 directors. But anyway, yeah, Baby Driver, which we'll talk about in a later list. I definitely think it's really an amazing movie, and I think Edgar Wright, I would say that he's like my favorite comedy director, because like he has like the way that he does comedy. It's not like the generic like, oh, like it's a boring like horrible comedy movie, but like he creates like comedic moments where you don't think like there should be comedic moments, and
Yeah.
he does it like so well that it just feels like natural. And movies like I've seen Hot Fuzz and Shaun of the Dead as well. I definitely think he just has he's another one of those directors that has a very unique style, and I definitely agree with Vance. How like everyone like copies his like style nowadays, and I think only Edgar Wright can do it
Sure.
the right way.
Oh yeah.
Oh, all right.
Okay,
All
that's
right.
enough.
All right.
All right.
Okay.
Oh no. I have one last one, and this is
I have
actually
one as well.
this
Nice.
actually really surprised me when I was looking at what to put down, because usually I kind of get angry at this guy a little bit. But I actually put down Martin Scorsese on my top 5 directors. Usually I find him a little bit pretentious and a little bit too like gatekeeper, like, oh, like I'm the grandfather of film, look at me. But actually, when I looked at the movies that I've seen from him, he's actually really, really good. Despite, I didn't really like Irishman that much a lot. I thought it was a pretentious film. I thought it was just kind of like, okay, dude, this did not need to be this long. But The Irishman, absolutely loved Taxi Driver for obvious reasons. The Wolf of Wall Street, I saw that saw that when I was like 13, so that was probably a bad idea. Gangs of New York, I thought was super cool. The Aviator and Hugo. I think Martin Scorsese is another one of those kind of vanilla directors, and you never really know that you're watching a Scorsese movie, unless it's kind of his older stuff. Like Taxi Driver was really, really crazy, but I think now he kind of just makes vanilla stuff. Like I couldn't tell that Gangs of New York was like, I didn't realize that was a Scorsese movie. I didn't realize The Aviator was. I didn't realize Hugo was. He just kind of like jumps around to different stuff, and I think that's both a good and a bad thing. I think he tailors a style for each movie. He doesn't really carry it across like this broad kind of thing. Because like Hugo, for example, is this like kid movie that's like, like really, it's like a Disney movie basically. And then you have Wolf of Wall Street, where you have a guy snorting cocaine off of a woman, So it's just like, what is happening? Or like a Taxi Driver, where it's a guy going insane and like shooting up a bunch of people. And then you have like The Aviator, about this guy who's like this entrepreneur. It's just like really, it's just really random. But once you realize that you've been watching Scorsese movies, it's actually really, really impressive.
Yeah, I definitely agree. Some of his stuff is really good. Some of his stuff is kind of average.
Yeah.
But like I saw The Irishman too. It was really way too long for what the story was.
Yeah.
But definitely The Aviator, I think, is my favorite one of his, because I love Leonardo DiCaprio's performance in that, and just the whole like way it was shown of like him like going crazy. I think it was really well done.
Mm-hmm.
I was gonna say that for like all the directors we've listed, it's really they're like staple movies You can really. We have a caller coming from Idaho.
Oh God.
All right.
Oh God.
Get him on the line. John Lennon from. All right,
Oh
cool.
God.
Yeah.
But one
Hey,
thing that
nice.
one thing that like you can really notice with directors
Sorry.
that make like good movies. I'm just trying to plow through this, okay? It's the actors are also like the overall entire crew is also invested, but the actors are very invested in what they're making, and you can really tell with like whether it's like short student films or even like large productions that if the actors aren't in it, it's just not going to be a good movie overall. And I think that's why what separates what wins like student films as well is that there's I mean obviously the director is doing like a lot of work, but if there's no communication between what the director is doing and what the actor is doing, it's just like a big mess. And I think that's what really like separates from the like the average director and really good directors is communication with like the entire crew and the actors so
Mhm.
that everything actually fits under their vision compared to everything just going on in like different areas.
Mhm.
It's yeah.
Yeah.
And that's why I think Wes Anderson, specifically for me at least, is really he's really good at that. The communication is because he has to have that communication, otherwise it doesn't work because of how how meticulous, that's the word I keep repeating, but how
Yeah.
meticulous he is about everything. It's if he had like communication is key when it comes to making good films. Yeah.
I agree for sure. If you're not on page with Wes Anderson, you're gonna get lost. Like if you read that script as an actor and you don't ask a question to the director, if you don't ask Wes, if I were to ever work, I imagine any actor that works with Wes Anderson asks an average of like 100 questions a day. You have to. It's so stylized. It's either they ask the questions or Wes Anderson is telling them because it's just like it is so elaborate. But yeah, I totally agree with that. Communication is so key, and I think that's really what's really cool about like our group and everything is that we're both able to like be friends on the first part, but then also be like professional about it, and so that we're not afraid to like say things and to be like communicating on set. And I think I think that's really cool. And I think we did that really well on Covetous actually. Patrick and I think Patrick and I worked really well with like being like, hey, what's like, do you want to do this? Or like, what did you think? And like watching the stuff and like collaborating. I think that was really cool. I think we have to keep doing that. And I think learning from these directors is we have to keep getting better at how we communicate in order to make really, really good movies.
Yeah.
Yeah. Is that going to wrap it up? Ube, you said you had one more, or is it Scorsese?
Well, it's not Scorsese. It's a pretty, I mean, it's a pretty generic. I'm pretty sure he'd make it onto like anyone's list. It's Christopher Nolan.
Oh yeah, it's a good one.
All of his movies are just very interesting. I haven't seen like a bad Christopher Nolan movie. Interstellar I mean, it was one of my top movies until I watched another movie. But his movies are just really well written, really well directed, and overall just really good.
Yeah, I almost put Christopher Nolan down. Oh, my camera's dying. That's awesome. All right, here, wait.
Nice.
Give me a moment. I almost put Christopher Nolan down. Is my camera not going back on? Bruh.
All right, guys, we have a new guest. His name is Webcam Utility Beta.
Let's go. Oh, God. It's happening.
With Nikon cut off.
True.
That's
Hey.
his manager.
Hey, this is how we do it. Might have to take an intermission. Who knows?
I mean, I was going to say we're at about like an hour and 10 minutes long now.
Jeez, what is happening?
I've only been recording for an hour. I think we're like 50 minutes in.
Yeah.
You guys want to just finish this and finish the podcast?
I think that might work. We could do the other two some other time.
Yeah.
Okay.
And then, or I'll just ask it after we're done.
So anyways, this is a really weird, abrupt ending. I'm going to be talking from Webcam Utility
My camera
Beta.
dies on stream.
Dude, Camera dies on stream.
Guys, we
Podcast
had-
ends early.
So we actually had a legal issue since Vance works for a private acting company. We can no longer display his name. We would like you to refer to Vance as Webcam Utility.
Thank you. Beta.
Webcam Utility Beta, if you address him formally. Thank you. And
Yeah.
let's play
I know
ourselves
you-
out.
I know you can't see me, but I hope you enjoyed. We're probably just put a picture of my face up if you're editing this, just like a still picture. I hope you enjoyed this podcast, and if you did, please make sure to subscribe, leave a comment. Hey, and check out our Instagram, either our personal ones or our official one. We want to hear from you guys. We want to build something. We're really, really passionate about this. And yeah, hope you guys enjoyed.
Oh,
Catch you
and
next time. Oh,
depending.
Oh, God.
Okay. All right.
oh God!
bye.
Oh God!
Not yet.
That's
Not yet. Nobody wants
that's
to
it.
say something. What
Well, I
what do you
was
wanna
gonna say, depending on when this is released, check out our other videos if we do post them. We're
Oh, true.
we're trying to do something. Just 3 dudes and Filler Man, who's our filler.
They
But,
can't see it.
I'll like
Won't be able-
move. I'll like
we'll, like,
animate
yeah.
the
Yeah.
thing to move.
We can edit
Underneath,
Vance.
underneath the logo is Filler Man. He's here to hold up like the billboard that we're like, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
All right.
I mean, all right.
Stop speaking. Okay. See you guys later.